school for showing up and supporting changes that are necessary to put common sense back into the education process and back into the development and education of our children. So thank you very much. I want to say that we've got a lot of people here that are going to speak, so I'm not going to talk for very long. I'm just going to introduce myself and then talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about here and why we need to talk about it and what we need to do when we leave here. My name is Jim Lehman from Transparency in Education, and among the people speaking tonight we have our candidates for Congress in the 6th District to represent us. We have Board of Education candidates here, we have parents, we have community leaders, we have faith leaders, and we have Jamie Brennan from a fantastic organization that's doing great work at the state level, the county level, and the national level, Moms for Liberty. But before I turn things over to them, I do want to just tell you a quick story about something that happened the other day that sort of underscores exactly why we're here and why we need to spread the word. We had an interesting day and in the streets. We had a booth set up just north of 2nd Avenue. And Tom and my wife and others, we engaged, I would say, somewhere in excess of 100 families, parents, individuals, and so forth. And the good news was, my guess, 80 to 90% of them supported exactly what we're here to support. 80 to 90%. And I think that's reflective of exactly how the county itself looks, but maybe the entire state and country. The not so good news was that by my estimate, I think Tom would agree, 50 to maybe 70% of them had no idea of what was happening out there and right now in the school system. They had no idea, for example, that academic proficiency in the last school year was tested by the state and by the county, and for both math and science, our proficiency levels were below 50%, meaning more than half the kids aren't proficient in math or science at grade level. And English language arts is not much worse, not much better, I mean, it's just slightly better. And it hasn't been because of the pandemic, because in 2018, and we have the materials pulled directly from the website, in 2018, the numbers were barely better, barely above 50%. So we've been in this mode for a while, and the really troubling part of that academics is when I met with the school system leadership in July, and we talked about their target, it was 70 to 80%, meaning that you could still have 20 to 30% of kids not operating at grade level. But here's the real kicker. When I asked them how long it's going to take to reach that very low target, it was 8 years. That's not a priority. That's not urgency. The house is on fire and we need to address that now. Parents also didn't know that boys can compete on girls' interscholastic sports teams. They can compete on them, and that's happening now because Frederick County has a policy that says that if you declare yourself to be a boy or a girl, irrespective of your biological sex, you can compete on the sports team that you choose. We had a girl testify in April that she was competing on her track and cross-country team against a biological male. And she spoke very passionately about the fact that she would have loved to have come up sooner, but she's afraid of the backlash. And we need to speak up. Bathroom, locker room, showers, all have the same sort of policy. And again, it's happening. The same sort of policy that allows you to choose it by your chosen gender, not by your biological gender. And just up the road in Gettysburg, a coach decided that he wanted to take advantage of that, and he's using the locker room of the girls' tennis team that he's teaching. We have other issues besides that. We have spending. And I use this example quite often because when I looked at the budget, there was $100,000 in the budget for a study done by a Minnesota company that is tied to the proponents of critical race theory that has been contracted with to do a survey that is supposed to determine whether or not we have racism in our culture, in our curriculums, in our policies, and so forth. So we have $100,000 to do that, but we don't have any money to fix Brunswick's high school. So it doesn't matter whether you look at it from a gender perspective, from a financial perspective, from an academic perspective. From it, change is needed, and that's why we're here right now. One last thing I'll mention before I turn it over to the speakers is that parental notification piece, which is a big, big issue these days. So if your child decides that they want another gender, the school system has a policy that says that they're not going to tell a parent if they deem that the parent is non-supportive. It's a pretty broad definition of non-supportive. It can mean anything from abuse, which they're required to report anyway, or it could mean something as simple as they don't believe that you'll affirm their child's choice to change their gender, so parents are not notified. That particular one is one that's at the top of the list that everybody wants to change. No school should ever know more about their child's mental condition or about their condition than the families does. And there is no privacy separation. There is no privacy separation between a child and his parent as they claim, that a child has a right to privacy. A child needs the opposite. A child needs guidance, and that should come from the family. So I'm going to close and turn it over to our speakers, but I do want to make one comment. That story I told about in the streets where you have nearly 2/3 of the parents that didn't know, it falls upon us to spread the word. Once parents know and get engaged, we have a powerful force behind us. Spread the word. We have materials up here that you can use. If you can't remember all the facts, we have them in brochures and we can help you. And write the board. Write a letter to the board. Just send them an email. It doesn't matter what topic you want, but they will read them and they listen. And the folks that are trying to shout me down right now over here are writing letters and campaigns and inundating that board. So they're only getting one side. So speak up. Glad you showed up, but speak up too. The other thing is, be careful who you put in office. We need representatives, not activists, and we need us to vote in the right people. The right people are here today, and you're going to hear from them. So support those people for Congress. Make sure we get the right people to represent us at the county, state, and at the federal level. So I'm going to stop talking right now. I'm going to turn it over to George, and then we'll get to our first speaker.